Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. Today, we have a woman who didn't just break glass ceilings, she shattered them with a smile and a perfectly timed question. For those who may somehow not know who are you?
Well, for those who spent their evenings with me, I was a broadcast journalist, an author, and a television personality. You might know me as a co-host of 2020, a co-anchor on ABC Evening News, or the person who invited you to sit at a table on The View. But really, I was a girl with a microphone who just never stopped asking why.
We are honoured to have you. Let's start at the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on September 25th, 1929, in the beautiful city of Boston, Massachusetts.
And what was your given name at birth?
My name has always been Barbara Jill Walters.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
There isn't a grand mystery to it, but my parents, Lou and Dina Walters, chose it simply because they liked it. My middle name, Jill, was a bit of a standard for the time, but it certainly served me well throughout my years.
What was your hometown like growing up?
Boston was home for a while, but my life was a bit like a traveling circus. Because of my father's work, we moved around quite a bit between Boston, Miami, and New York City. I remember the neon lights of the nightclubs more than the picket fences of a typical neighborhood.
What was your family life like?
It was complicated but full of love. My father was a nightclub impresario who founded the Latin Quarter, so our lives were filled with the glitz of show business. My mother, Dina, was the glue holding us together. I had an older sister, Jacqueline, who was developmentally disabled, and a brother, Burton, who sadly passed away when I was very young. My sister was a huge part of my heart. I always felt a responsibility to protect her.
What kind of kid were you?
I wasn't particularly kid-like in the traditional sense. Because of my father's business, I was always around famous people. Celebrities were just people who came over for dinner or worked for my dad. It made me quite comfortable around fame, but it also made me a bit of a serious, observant child.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
My biggest fear was instability. My father's career was a roller coaster. One minute we were wealthy, and the next, everything was gone. That fear of losing it all stayed with me. I also worried deeply for my sister's future.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I didn't dream of being a journalist. In fact, for a long time, I just wanted to be successful enough to take care of my family. I wanted a sense of security that felt permanent.
What were some of your favourite activities in school?
I was a very studious girl. I loved English and writing. When I got to Sarah Lawrence College, I found my voice in literature. I wasn't the captain of the cheerleading squad. I was the girl with her nose in a book.
What was your first job?
My very first job was as a secretary at a public relations firm. I think I was a terrible secretary, but it got my foot in the door of the media world.
Was there a moment where you realised you were different from everyone else?
I think it was realizing that I wasn't in awe of fame. I saw the behind the scenes of the glamorous life early on, the insecurities, the late nights, the struggles. It gave me a different perspective when I eventually started interviewing those same types of people.
What's a decision that changed everything for you but felt small at the time?
Taking a job as a writer and researcher for the Today Show in 1961. At the time, it was just a way to use my writing skills, but it turned out to be the launch pad for my entire career on camera.
What was your biggest break?
It was definitely being named the first female co-host of the Today Show in 1974. It was a title I had been doing the work for years, but getting the official recognition was a massive turning point for women in news.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
The boys' club of the 1960s and 70s. I had to fight for every minute of airtime. There were co-anchors who wouldn't even speak to me off camera, and rules about how many questions I was allowed to ask. I had to be twice as prepared just to be half as respected.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Oh, many times. Especially when I first moved to ABC to be the evening news anchor, and the criticism was so harsh. People called me a $1 million baby and mocked my speech. But my father always said, work harder. So I did.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Relentless preparation. I would spend hours, days, even weeks researching a guest. I wanted to know things they didn't even know about themselves. My routine was essentially study, study, study.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I likely would have stayed a writer or producer. I loved the craft of storytelling, even when I wasn't the one telling the story on camera.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a series of small apartments and hard work. I was a young woman trying to find my way in New York, supporting my parents and my sister. It was busy, slightly anxious, but very driven.
How did relationships change after success?
It became harder. Fame can be very isolating. I was married 3 times, and balancing a high-pressure career with a personal life was always a struggle. My relationship with my daughter Jackie was the most important one to me, and I tried my best to keep her life private.
Did fame bring happiness?
Fame brought opportunity and security, which made me happy. But happiness itself? That came from the gets, the thrill of a great interview, and the quiet moments with my family.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The lack of privacy and the constant scrutiny. Every outfit, every word, and every R I didn't quite pronounce correctly was fair game for public commentary. It makes you very guarded.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People often thought I was pushy or cold. In reality, I was just determined. If I didn't push, the door would have stayed shut. I also think people missed my sense of humor. I loved a good laugh.
What was your darkest moment?
When my father lost his money and attempted to take his own life. It was a terrifying time, and it reinforced that feeling that everything I worked for could vanish.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I often wished I had spent more time at home. The working mother guilt was very real for me. I loved my career, but I always wondered if I could have been more present.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That I was a natural. Nothing about my career was natural. It was all manufactured through sheer willpower and practice. I worked on my voice, my posture, and my questioning style every single day.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
Not pairing with Harry Reasoner at ABC News was a disaster. He didn't want me there, and it showed on air. The ratings were down, and the press was cruel. I handled it by pivoting. I started doing my specials, the celebrity interviews, and found a way to succeed outside of that anchor desk.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It changed my circumstances, absolutely. I could provide for my sister and give my daughter a good life. But at my core, I was still that same girl who was afraid of the lights going out.
What personal battles were you fighting privately?
Much of it was the health of my family and my own insecurities. I never felt pretty enough or good enough, no matter how many awards I won.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My father, Lou. He showed me the world of celebrities, but he also showed me how fragile success can be.
What was life like in your final years?
After I retired from The View in 2014, I took things much slower. I wanted to sit in a sunny field and enjoy the view, so to speak. I lived a more private life in my New York apartment, surrounded by the memories of a very full career.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
My final project was really The View. I wanted to leave behind a platform where women could speak their minds every single day.
When and where and how did you pass away, and how old were you?
I passed away peacefully at my home in New York City on December 30th, 2022. I was 93 years old.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a huge fan of the nightclub scene. Not just because of my dad, but I actually loved the energy of places like the Copacabana and El Morocco when I was younger.
What was your most unique habit?
I was an obsessive note taker. I had notebooks filled with thoughts about people I hadn't even met yet, just in case I ever got the chance to interview them.
What was your favorite food?
I had a weakness for Chinese food and a very good steak.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
Maxim's was always a special place for me. It felt like the epitome of the glamour I grew up around.
What was your favorite book?
I loved anything by Colette. Her writing about women's lives and independence always resonated with me.
Did you have any known rivalries?
Oh, the press loved to talk about my rivalry with Diane Sawyer. We were both very competitive women in the same field, chasing the same gets. It was professional, but yes, we both wanted to be first.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
Early in my career, I was told I shouldn't be on air because of my impediment, the way I pronounce my L's and R's. I was told I didn't have the voice for news. I decided then that if they wouldn't listen to my voice, I'd make sure they couldn't ignore my questions.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Gilda Radner's Baba Wawa impression on Saturday Night Live. At first, I wasn't sure how to feel, but then I realized it was a badge of honor. If you're being parodied on SNL, you've truly made it. My daughter actually had to tell me to lighten up about it.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I wouldn't call myself outlandish, but I did love beautiful jewelry. I felt that after all those years of hard work, I earned a little sparkle.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't wait for permission. If the door isn't open, find a window. And most importantly, be the most prepared person in the room.
Barbara, this has been absolutely fascinating. Do you have any closing remarks about our interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Just that I am so happy to have had this chance to chat with you, Calvin. To the listeners, keep asking questions. Don't be afraid to be a little pushy for the things you believe in. Thank you so much for having me. It was a delight.
From the nightclubs of Boston to the most iconic interviews in history, Barbara Waters lived a life that redefined what was possible for women in media. Her tenacity, her preparation, and her fearlessness changed the news forever. Thank you, Barbara, for joining us. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.